Hey there, Axia trader. Mike here, coming at you with another one from Chicago, Illinois. And today we're going to talk about pattern bridging. So let's get into it. Now, what exactly is pattern bridging? We talk a lot about this in our cohorts and in our courses about the importance of understanding where certain elements of your tools, of market narrative and structure need to be bridged in order to create an edge. It's going to depend on the edge domain, which is something we've been going on about in previous videos. But again, it's just so important to constantly reiterate week by week where those edge domains are providing opportunities that are consistent within patterns. And that's the thing about patterns, right? They are, in turn, patterns are consistency. Patterns are something that is consistently happening and reliable. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about is when you are looking to bridge and what you are looking to bridge. For those that have been in the Discord now for this whole narrative of the Iran-US-Israel war, have learned a lot from myself and the other traders on when and what it is that you're bridging relative to the edge domains, whether it's a re-escalation, a de-escalation, the follow-through of either or, and again, where to really lean into regarding your tools or the specific things that you should be looking for in your news flow. Sometimes it's not related to geopolitical stuff. Sometimes it's related to a simple market on close, which is in itself already a pattern, right? 350 EST New York time every single trading day without fail. You get a market on close announcement, how much money on the buy side, how much money on the sell side. And our traders have capitalized really effectively over the last 2 weeks on a pattern that has appeared within that time period. So sometimes it doesn't have to be as kind of wild as a geopolitical narrative. Sometimes it can be as simple as a 5 to 10 minute period on the order flow where you catch a pattern and you use it until it stops working. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about risk management and risk distribution and some fundamental questions within that space. So just a reminder, folks, these are the 5 edge domains that Axia methodology is based on. So your central banks right now are still front and center. We just had the ECB hike this past Thursday. This video is the Friday that follows, and it has been a very interesting development with some of the peripheries and the other banks like the Bank of Canada. So again, click that link below if you're interested in learning that very dense space that a lot of people are kind of afraid of, but you can come to our Discord chat with myself, other traders, and learn everything you need to know about the terminology, what you should look for, what assets you should trade on those events. Economic data, we had that CPI this week, that NFP last week on Friday, which was really fruitful for some of our traders, how it connects in terms of how it connects to the Fed space. And then, of course, we've recently gotten a de-escalation as of this video. So this is the Friday that follows a Trump tweet saying that there is in fact a deal, and we've seen oil markets come off. We've seen the risk assets relift off of what's been kind of a heavy past 2 weeks. And of course, the technicals, the foundation, your profiles, your footprint, your classical charts, where a lot of you probably start. But once you can link these technicals to all these aforementioned, that's where you're going to really start to build that edge. And as I mentioned, that market on close event every day at 3:50 Eastern, that's a flow event where the ladders create velocity and volatility, which in fact is where you find a lot of opportunity. Volatility is opportunity, and we believe that harvesting that is where you can really gain a lot of edge and positive P&L feedback for your long-term careers. So folks, sequencing, right? When a pattern appears, you want to ask yourself, is it consistent? And I'm going to keep using this market on close example because it has been one of the most consistent that Axia traders have ever seen. And even though it was really consistent for somewhat of a short period of time, they just kept using it until it stopped working. So after 2 or 3 days of consistent follow through on that pattern, that 4th day, they're willing to put a little bit of extra size. They're willing to see it through in its full potential. And even though it might not necessarily be a 100 handle move, you know, those 8 handles, those 10 handles that are reliable, if you're knowing how to capture that with the proper size, it can be a very fruitful thing for a trader, especially a junior who's trying to kick off their career. So looking for that consistency, using it until it stops working. Of course, really remembering that the immersion and the capturing and the observation process that you've basically gathered from that experience is well archived and logged so that the next time that iteration reappears, you're able to then deploy on those first 2 days the size that you chose to distribute on the third day. And then on that third day, if it's still consistent, you've leveraged up even more. And that's one of the key things in this business, folks, and something that the Axia methodology is all about, is knowing how to retrieve archived patterns and permutations based on how many cycles you've seen to be able to deploy a greater size in your trading, so that, again, you're not relying on the extension of direction. You're not looking for 120 moves. You're not looking for these massive trends that sometimes you can see when you look at a chart that happen over a duration of days and weeks, but you're looking for those flash spike, those expansions in market volatility that you can then capitalize on. And again, is the pattern that you're seeing driven by a specific edge domain? Sometimes they link and they bridge. Is a order flow pattern linking up with something driven by news? Are you seeing an accumulative bid on a certain asset then suddenly shows itself as preemptive sort of structure or buying opportunity that maybe traders were looking at technically? Maybe they were looking at that order flow accumulation, but then something positive happens to hit the wire that then pushes that market into its implied technical target. Tool layering, as I said, is not always just classical charts, footprint, or market profile. Sometimes it's your newsreader and your order flow, knowing what drives certain velocity and how to capitalize on that velocity. We talk so much about that every day in the live Discord channel, where traders come and ask me, what should my highlights be? What are the main speakers I should be looking at? Which speakers have more significance than others? Is there certain words that I should be looking for that create a greater movement in the market? All those things are critically important to understand. If you ever find yourself trading a technical pattern and then all of a sudden the market takes you off sides, or perhaps puts you on sides, but you don't really know why, if you join us in that Discord channel, you're going to find out that more often than not, the Axia collective mindset is usually pretty aware of what could and might move the market, and rarely are we surprised by what we see. And that's just how news flows tend to sequence, right? And again, back to that market on close, is there a time trigger? Or is it a time trigger relative to something that's been consistent? So a great example of that is the Bank of Japan relative to the yen. As that market has been trending higher, the USD JPY spikes in that market overnight seem to be consistent. So you can ask any of our traders at Axia that between midnight Eastern and 4 a.m. Eastern, there seems to be some anomalous reactive trading in that market, that if you're sitting there, perhaps you're on the right time zone, perhaps you're trading in the Asia side, Australia, and you're looking for an opportunity there that's timing consistent, that's a great one to look at right now. And again, folks, when are you looking to bridge and what are you looking to bridge? So this goes back to those three tools: your profiles, your footprints, your order flow, and timing. I think timing is so important, and of course that relates to news, but more often than not, if you're watching the markets at, say, the Globex Open, it's very rare that you're going to get certain news flows and activity that allows you to access a pattern. Whereas if you're looking at the market during, say, the transition from the London mid-afternoon into that US morning, that's when there's going to be opportunity. That's when certain cash markets are opening. NYMEX, the COMEX, obviously the New York Stock Exchange. Trump consistently tweets between, say, 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., sometimes a little later. But just being aware of those little nuances to know when to bridge is so important. And of course, looking to understand what you're bridging is not always the tools also, but it's also the asset class. So in this particular narrative regarding US and Iran and Israel, it's obviously been a lot of oil-driven headlines, how the oil almost acts as a volatility indicator, meaning that if oil is up, risk assets get a little wobbly, or vice versa, and knowing when those patterns start to fade and diverge, knowing when they lose their kind of substance. So as of the last 2 weeks, we've seen the US dollar and the global yields trend away from the oil kind of parallel, meaning they don't ride with the same unison that they were over March and April. And now the dollar, the currencies, the yields, they're all working on the basis of inflation concerns and how each economy, which each central bank has to control the monetary policy within, is dealing with that inflation. So again, understanding what it is that you're bridging. So maybe when you're trading central banks, you're not necessarily looking to trade broad range of market correlation, but you're looking for specific divergences. So a good example was this week, we saw a language change in the Bank of Canada saying that they would look through inflation shocks for now, while the ECB on the following day said literally that they think looking through is actually a bad idea. And on the day of that release for the ECB, the Bank of Canada's currency, if you will, their Canadian dollar, known as the loonie, that diverged lower while the euro stayed somewhat bid. So that's a very important factor. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about risk management and risk distribution. So just a couple fundamental questions on this that we really want to touch on in regards to all these topics. And one of those questions that comes first is, when are you risking more or less and why? So we don't believe in this kind of funding trial culture that you see with certain groups out there and prop firms that claim that you should have a trailing stop on the day, cross those certain barriers, that you're no longer eligible for funding or whatever. We really believe that when you risk or when you allocate risk, it has a lot more to do with what is actually happening in the market. Certain assets have certain volatility that might provide and expose you to greater price extensions, which of course, if those go against you in the medium term, can stop you out, right, in some of those environments. Whereas we believe that if you understand that and you showcase a steepening learning curve and understanding in your prep and your communication to our coaches, then we actually will allow you to risk more in certain environments to be able to access those trades. And sometimes that also correlates to the distribution. One of those questions is, when you have gains, a lot of folks make the mistake of closing out. Okay, I've made $1,000 today. I've made my first 3K day. I think that's enough for me. And then they walk away. Granted, there are days when you should walk away. There are also fundamental days where you should actually redistribute those gains to then capture more of what's available to you. And this is one of the hardest things in being a profitable trader, because you can definitely get by at a certain point with standard market gains, meaning like, say you're drawing a parallel to like a regular 9-to-5 job that you make a consistent salary in. Elite traders understand this concept so well when it comes to redistributing gains and understanding that, okay, these gains are not just an excuse for me to call it quits and walk away. When there is a certain time to risk more, there is a certain almost sort of obligation to make sure that you are understanding when it's time to risk more. I can't reiterate that enough, that our elite traders made it because they understood this concept. Granted, I'll also kind of remind you all that you have to earn those stripes. And I talked about that in my last video about the difference between a junior trader and a senior trader and what they are sort of able to distribute within the market. But again, like, let's say you're a junior and you don't have the ability to risk more. You should still be at your desk understanding why there might be an opportunity there that your fellow senior traders are showcasing, that you should then capture, observe, and immerse yourself in, and then log to then understand how to deploy that when your time comes. And asset volatility, I want to touch on again, like when you're trading and distributing in a volatile market like the oil futures or the gold futures versus something like the bonds, knowing how to size that based on the personality is critical. And again, click that link below, elitetraderworkshop.com, so you can understand in the live Discord room where we practice those differentials. How much do we put into bonds? How much do we put into oil? What are the considerations of the volatility within those asset classes? And that builds consistency, folks. And then lastly, folks, just knowing when it's worth to redistribute gains, and that comes a lot from experience. And sometimes it comes from an understanding of when you should be sitting on your hands, like when you should find the bridge between perhaps dipping a little bit into the market, knowing that something is looming, but also knowing that, like, perhaps on that, for example, this week we saw a lot of like slow churn activity in the New York mornings that then would pick up into the afternoon. So a lot of our experienced traders were very kind of proficient in knowing, like, I'm going to stay somewhat nimble here and avoid over trading in this churn environment. But as soon as that market started to showcase the catalyst buildup, they were already in, but then they were able to really engage more aggressively and redistribute that risk allocation to then get the feedback that they were looking for on their profit curve, which again comes from just an extended, steepened learning curve.